When my boyfriend and I first moved into our new apartment, we thought we had found the perfect place. It was small, but cozy, tucked away in a quiet neighborhood. The building itself was old, but it had character. Creaky wooden floors, tall windows, and a narrow staircase that groaned every time you climbed it. The only strange thing was the apartment across the hall. From the moment we moved in, we noticed the door. It was painted a dull gray, different from every other unit, and the peephole was covered with black tape from the inside. No one ever seemed to go in or out, yet sometimes, late at night, we could hear noises from behind it. At first, it was faint, a scraping sound, like furniture being dragged across the floor. Then, low, muffled voices, but no footsteps, never footsteps. We assumed maybe the tenant worked night shifts or just liked privacy. But then things started to get unsettling. One evening, I was carrying groceries up the stairs while my boyfriend was still at work. As I reached our floor, I froze. The gray door across the hall was wide open. Inside, there was no furniture, no boxes, nothing at all, except bare wooden floors and a single chair sitting in the middle of the room. And sitting on that chair was a man. He was completely still, dressed in dark clothes, his face obscured by the shadows. But I knew he was staring directly at me. I panicked and fumbled with my keys, rushing inside our apartment and slamming the door behind me. I pressed my ear to the wood, heart racing. Silence. No footsteps, no door closing, just nothing. When I finally gathered the courage to look through the peephole, the gray door was shut again. I tried to tell myself I imagined it, that the stress of moving was getting to me. But the next day, my boyfriend swore he saw the same man watching us through the cracked door when he left for work. From then on, things escalated. At night, we started hearing tapping on our walls. Not the usual creaks of an old building. This was deliberate. 3 slow taps, then silence. Sometimes it came from the ceiling, sometimes from the pipes in the bathroom. One night, around 2 a.m., my boyfriend shook me awake. "Do you hear that?" he whispered. I sat up. From the hallway came a faint sound, whistling. Not a tune, just a single, steady note. Long, drawn out, like whoever it was wanted us to know they were there. We looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty, but the whistling didn't stop. It grew louder, closer, until it sounded like it was coming from right outside our door. And then, all at once, silence. The next morning, we noticed something that made my stomach drop. Our door had deep scratches around the lock, as if someone had tried to force it open. We called the landlord. He brushed it off, said it was probably wear and tear, maybe kids messing around. When we mentioned the noises, the man across the hall, and the scratches, the landlord grew strangely defensive. He said there hasn't been anyone living in that unit for over a year. We argued. We told him what we saw, but he insisted, "No one's there. That apartment is vacant." That night, determined to prove we weren't imagining it, my boyfriend slid a small piece of paper under the gray door. He wrote one word on it: "Why?" The next morning, the paper was back under our door. Only now, a single word had been scrawled across it in shaky handwriting: "Watching." After that, everything spiraled. The whistling returned almost every night. Sometimes it was accompanied by the sound of the chair scraping across the floor inside the vacant apartment. Other times, it was a low, guttural laugh. We set up a camera facing the hallway, but every time we reviewed the footage, the moments where the noises happened were distorted, static, flickering. Once, just once, the camera caught a single frame of something. A face pressed against our peephole from the outside. It wasn't clear, more like a pale blur with wide, dark eyes, but it was enough to make us sick with fear. We barely slept. We kept the lights on. We even considered breaking the lease, but we didn't have the money to move again. Then came the night. Everything changed. I woke up around 3:15 a.m. The apartment was freezing, colder than it had ever been. My breath fogged in the air. From the hallway came a slow creak, like a door opening. I grabbed my boyfriend and we both listened. Footsteps. For the first time since we'd moved in, we actually heard footsteps from the other side. Slow, heavy, coming closer. And then a knock. Not on our neighbor's door, on ours. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. We didn't move, didn't breathe. The knocking came again, louder this time. And then we heard it, a whisper, so faint it was almost impossible to catch, but we both heard it, clear as day. Sunshine. It wasn't just a word, it was the nickname my boyfriend called me, one he never used around strangers, one he hadn't said out loud in weeks. Our blood ran cold. Whoever or whatever was on the other side of that door knew us. When we finally worked up the courage to check through the peephole, the hallway was empty. The next morning, the gray door was wide open again. The chair was gone. The apartment was completely empty. And On our door, scratched deep into the wood, were 3 words: "See you soon."